Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Ethan Mitchell and today we are going to color grade PLOG from the Parrot Anafi. What's up guys? So today I'm going to show you how I take this and make it look like this. So log footage can be a bit of a challenge if you're not used to working with it. The idea is to normalize it to Rec 709, typically using a LUT. Once you've done that, then you can push your colors around and manipulate the footage the way you'd like. So today I'm going to show you my process of color grading PLOG using Final Cut Pro. So let's jump into the computer and get started. So first we're going to go over to Motion Effects and download the MLUT plugin. This is a free plugin and you must create an account and download their mini installer. Once that's complete, you can go back to their website and find MLUT and download it. Ryan Nagle did a great video on this, so I'll leave a link to his video in the description. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's jump into Final Cut Pro. So first I like to bring up the color scopes and check the exposure. Command 7 is the keyboard shortcut to the scopes. You can click on View to change your layout. I prefer the single box. If you click on the icon that looks like a bar graph, that will show you the different scopes and channels. To check exposure, we want Waveform under Scopes and Luma under Channel. This will bring up the exposure waveform. You want the footage to be at or below 100 on the highlights and at or above 0 on the shadows. Anything over 100 is clipping the highlights and below 0 is clipping the shadows. To make adjustments, we'll bring up the color wheels. You can use the color board as well, but I prefer the color wheels. To get to the color wheels, make sure your clip is highlighted, then press the color triangle at the top of the inspector. If the inspector is not up, you can press this icon at the top right hand of the screen, or Command 4 is the shortcut. So in the corrections menu, let's pull up the color wheels. You can use the color board as well, but I prefer the color wheels. In the color wheels, we have the master, shadows, highlights, and midtones. The control on the right will adjust exposure, and the control on the left will adjust saturation. You can also push the control in the middle to change the color if needed. If your footage is too cool, you can bring up the temperature and that will warm it up, and vice versa. Okay, so now that we've checked exposure, let's add the MLUT effects. To bring up the video effects, click here, or Command 5 is the shortcut. Look for the MLUT effect and drag it onto your clip. It will then appear in the inspector. In the MLUT effect, you can access their library of free LUTs, you can load a custom LUT, and you can purchase additional LUTs from Motion Effects. The MLUT effect also has several color controls, so you can really dial in the look of your LUT. So let's bring up the MLUT library and find a LUT that works the best for the Anafi. As we scroll through, we can see a bunch of LUTs for log footage for other cameras. Feel free to explore, but I have found the LUTs for the Blackmagic and the Red seem to work the best for the Anafi's PLOG. Now LUTs have many different parameters, so you will find that the same LUT does not always work for your footage. Some are designed for overexposed footage and some are designed for underexposed footage. Some bring out more saturation and some bring out more contrast. You just have to find the right one that works for your footage. So I have already looked around and I have found the Blackmagic BMCC Film V4 looks the best. You want to look through the footage and make sure the LUT is not blowing out the highlights and not clipping the shadows. If we click on the Blackmagic BM Film V3, the colors look good, but the sky is blown out. So for this footage, we will stick with the BMCC Film V4. Okay, so that's looking better already. If needed, I can dial back the intensity of the LUT and adjust saturation as well. For this footage, the intensity looks good at 100%, and I will bring up the saturation just a bit. Remember, the key is subtlety. Too much saturation tends to look a bit fake, but it is your footage and you have the creative freedom to do whatever you want. At this point, I like to go back to the scopes and check the exposure again to make sure the LUT is not clipping anything. Here we can see we are still good on exposure, and we will bring up the RGB parade to check the color balance. The idea is to have all three color channels relatively even, but obviously if you have a lot of a particular color in the footage, say green, if your footage has a lot of green in it, your green channel is going to be very strong. So don't force them to be even if they really shouldn't be. Here we can see the blue channel is slightly higher than the red and green. I like to adjust the temperature first, then push color if necessary. So bringing up the temperature brought the blue channel down, warming up the image. Next, we can see the red channel is a little low on the scale, so we're going to go over to the shadows wheel and push it to the red, bringing up the red channel. Now let's scrub through the footage and see if anything needs a separate adjustment. So this is all looking pretty good, and now I'm going to add another LUT to give the footage some style. For this, I'm going to use the custom LUT effect that comes with Final Cut Pro. In the video effects, go to Color, then scroll down to the custom LUT and drag it onto your footage. Go to the inspector and click on the LUT dropdown. I really like Teal and Orange 1 available from Sam Kohler. This LUT from Sam Kohler is a free download, and I will leave a link in the description. Now the intensity of this LUT is way too strong, so we're going to have to dial this back a bit, right about there. Now again, scrub through the footage and make sure everything looks okay. So this is looking pretty good. So now I'm going to add a few finishing touches. I'm going to go back into the scopes and check the exposure again. So once I have the LUTs and the color the way I want them, I'm going to stretch out the exposure, bringing the highlights up close to 100 and then bringing the shadows down close to 0. I'm going to bring up the mids just a bit to make this look like it was later in the day. I also like to bring up the saturation of the shadows and lower the saturation of the highlights. So one thing I see standing out in the footage is the blue bimini top on the boat is a bit oversaturated. To fix that, we're going to go back into color and bring up the hue and saturation curves. For this, we're going to use the hue versus saturation. Click on the eyedropper and click on the area that is oversaturated. In this case, we can see the blue bimini top. This will bring up a line that represents that color in the values graph. Click on the dot in the middle and bring it down to decrease the saturation of that color. So now we can see the blue bimini top looks more natural. Okay, so that just about does it for color correction and grade. Finally, I'm going to add sharpening and add a letterbox for a more cinematic profile. Go to Video Effects and click on Blur, then drag Sharpen to your footage. You can experiment with how much you want to use, but I like to stay between 3 and 5 on most footage. For this footage, we're going to use 5. Finally, let's add a letterbox. I like to use an adjustment layer for this because if I need to adjust the scale or rotation of the footage, the letterbox will not be affected. Final Cut Pro does not come with an adjustment layer, but you can download one for free from Ryan Nagle. Again, there's a link in the description for this download. Ryan also has made a video on how to install plugins in Final Cut Pro, and I highly recommend you going to his page and checking all of his content out. He has a lot of free effects for Final Cut Pro and a lot that you can purchase. Once you have the adjustment layer installed, find it under Custom in the Titles menu. Drag this to the top of your clip. Now go to Stylize in the Video Effects and drag the letterbox effect to the adjustment layer. In the inspector, I'm going to use a 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio, and I'm going to increase the border just a bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now that we have the letterbox, you can really see how the horizon is tilted. This is due to the gimbal in the Anafi not calibrating correctly because it was powered up on the boat. To fix this, we're going to highlight the clip, then go to Inspector and scroll down to the Transform tool. Click on the square icon and that will bring up the control points on the footage. Click on the rotation control point and rotate the footage so the horizon is level with the letterbox. You can pull the control point to the side and this will enable you to make more precise adjustments. Once you're happy with your adjustments, click Done at the top of the playback window. So let's render this out and see how it looks. So there it is, guys, the Parrot Anafi's PLOG color graded. So I hope this helps. I know it seems like a lot, but really once you get the hang of it, you can sail through it pretty quickly. Color grading is one of those things that is done differently from person to person, so you really just have to find what works for you. So thanks for watching. I hope you have found this video informative, and if you've had some pointers you'd like to share, please leave a comment below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.